Hey, welcome to episode 1 of the Lindsay Comprehensive Exam Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lindsay. This week on the podcast, I interview my esteemed co-host, Hannah Robinson, about her life and career goals. These first 2 episodes will feature the 2 of us as guests, so you, our audience, can get to know us better. So let's stop messing around and get into the episode. Today's episode is brought to you by pencils. Pencils are tools for when you're ready to start something, but not committed to how bad you are on a first draft. Pencils give you the opportunity to create, but never be tied down. Pencils are like a significant other you've been with for 8 years, but never married. Pencils. Good enough until you're ready to do real work. All right, let's get this episode started. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hannah Robinson. I'm the co-host of Lindsay Comprehensive Exam.
That's perfect. Yeah. Today is a kind of get to know you podcast. This is going to be episode 1. And I just want to let our audience know who you are. And then episode 2 will be who I am. And I'm Lindsay, the other co-host of the Lindsay Comprehensive Exam podcast. So here we go. Okay, Hannah, we'll start with this. What is it that you do?
Well, professionally, I guess, I go to school at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I'm trying to be a historian, which is kind of cool, I guess. I also work in a library, which is kind of what I want to do with my career, so that's fun.
Now, you wear many hats.
Yeah, so many.
And we happen to wear the same hats.
Yes, we're basically the same person.
I am also a graduate student at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I also work with you in the library at Special Collections. I know it's weird, like, that we became friends and stuff. Okay, so you work in the library. What do you do at the library?
Oh, well, I work in Special Collections, which is basically like the rare books archives. So it's the kind of stuff you can't check out of the library. You have to go and look at it. And I do a lot of like describing collections and putting them on this online database so more people can get to it.
You help people find the collections and stuff like that?
Yes. It's like a treasure hunt.
A treasure? Well, you have to describe the treasure so people know what they're looking for.
That's exactly what I do.
And so you do a lot of processing of the collections too, right?
Oh, well, sometimes. Actually, I'm still working on my first processing project after like 3 months. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, how big is it?
It's about 25 boxes, so like 25 linear feet, which is like 25 huge, like foot-long boxes.
Right, but you have to go through every box.
Yeah.
And describe the contents and make sure they're in the right housing and all that stuff.
Yep.
Nice.
Found a really cool the marionette puppeteer burlesque show catalog.
Oh,
that's that one
really?
collection. Yeah.
Oh goodness, marionette
burlesque. Show. Yeah. So this guy, he like what's the word for it? Produced it.
You produced marionette.
That's the kind of things you
burlesque.
find in the library.
Of course, in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that is characteristic of our chosen city. Finding weird burlesque shit everywhere.
Yes.
What drew you to work at the library? Why did you start working there?
I guess, well, I worked in archives in my undergraduate at Washington State University, and I really loved that job. It was a lot smaller library, but the people that I worked with were really awesome, and they were really passionate about their job, and it was really great to kind of get that experience. So I wanted to have that again at a new university, it's kind of been a different experience, but also a pretty cool one.
Yeah, that's cool. And we worked together this summer. We applied for the same internship. Right. So how did you come across that internship to start with?
I think that Dr. Clementi in the history department told me about it, and it was going to be a paid internship. And I was hoping that it would turn into something that would be like a long-term for the rest of my graduate career. So that's kind of why I applied to it.
Well, I guess it turned out perfect for both of us, didn't it? Let's transition also. So you're also a graduate student, history department, seeking your master's degree. And what is your main focus?
Public history.
And why did you choose public history?
Well, I just, from professors in my undergraduate, they just told me that academic history isn't really like a feasible career path. And I've also just been interested in public history and how you can make history more accessible to more people and how it can be interesting to more than just somebody who reads a book.
Can you give us a loose definition of public history?
Really short definition. It's history for. So it's history for somebody. It's kind of dictated by the audience that you are making it for.
And so when you graduate, you hope to work where?
I Anywhere. No, just kidding.
Anywhere that will give me gainful employment.
Bread and wine. No. I think I would really like to work in a special collections type environment, maybe not necessarily associated with the university, but I really do like that kind of work. It's really, it's different every day. It's kind of exciting. It's not the same old repetitive type of job, you know.
And would you also be open to working in something like a museum? Is that other things that public history majors usually go for?
I'm kind of not crazy about museum work. I've worked kind of at the front end of a museum before, and they were really struggling financially, and it was just really hard to work there. And then after like kind of working as a curator last semester, I don't really like it that much.
Well, I guess we'll get into that a little bit more, because I think that's a natural segue to what I wanted to talk about is, in your experience with public history, what are the major challenges that you face?
It's hard as a history student learning about like the proper way to do history, and then trying to apply that to public history and be able to make all the different parties involved like happy with the final product. And with this project that I was doing, it was the university, the history department, fellow classmates, and then also the union that we were doing an exhibit on. So it was really hard to balance all of those like voices, I guess.
So, I mean, you've talked now about the divide between what you call academic history and public history. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I are part of this academic establishment that is very particular in its views of what history is.
Yeah.
And then it's, I think, in my opinion, radically different from public history. So can you talk to just the kinds of struggles that you had with the people you were working with to get this exhibit put up? The people that you were representing, the culinary union.
Yeah.
What kind of struggles did you have with them?
I think so. It was hard sometimes, but I think I had a lot easier time than a lot of my classmates did, because I knew right off the bat that this was going to be the project that it was. I knew what I was like getting into. I knew it was going to be kind of heavily controlled and kind of guided by the culinary union, and I knew that that was what the project was. So I was going to try to do my best to get the most like useful skills and knowledge out of it. So
you know they had a particular vision.
Oh, absolutely. That was like, we knew that before the class even started.
And their message, I think, is overtly political, right? To cast the union in the best positive light, to represent its history as a positive aspect of Las Vegas and things like that. So did you find that there was ever a conflict between their vision and what you think the history is?
The way that I kind of made myself not like hate myself during that whole process was to think of exploring the culinary union as like a culture, like a group of people, like a community. So it became more of like a study of how this community like thought about themselves and what they did kind of together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I remember some of our classmates who complained that they felt the culinary union was covering up aspects of their history that were problematic.
Yeah.
And what is your response to that?
I can definitely see where they're coming from, and I also see the thing is like we wouldn't have had an exhibit unless the culinary agreed to share their objects with us. Right. So it was kind of, I don't know if it's definitely something like is worth discussing, but it was kind of a moot point when we were doing the project, because we were doing it, and even if it kind of made people uncomfortable ethically, I don't know that mattered.
Right. Well, I think this is such an interesting study to think about, because of the way that we treat these kinds of exhibits is the same way that we treat oral histories, with a high level of skepticism.
Yeah.
Or we should. We should treat them with a high level of skepticism, because they are first-person perspectives. They come from people who are acting politically. They have motives, which are not always clear.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to take a skeptical eye to that. And I think some of our classmates thought that the exhibit should include those things, and you don't think that.
No, I mean, in that case, I think that this project was so unusual. I don't think public history is really necessarily defined by a project like that. Like normally in public history, the person that is kind of you're doing an exhibit on or is donating objects is not that involved. Like this is totally a rare occurrence. So
let's move on a little bit. I want to know, I mean, you've come a long way from Washington State. You chose the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So let's talk about a little bit where you're from, and then how you ended up here. So I want to ask you, where are you from?
It was kind of a semi-complicated question. My dad was in the Air Force, but he retired when I was about 10. So I usually say I grew up in Spokane, Washington, but I was actually born in Hawaii. And then I lived in Mississippi for kind of my younger years, which I think had a lot of effect on the person that I am.
Yeah, what kind of effect do you think that had?
Well, moving from somewhere like Mississippi, where in I think second grade, I was the only white girl in my class, which I didn't think it was weird. But then moving to Spokane, Washington, where everybody was white, and I was just like, "What is this? This is weird."
Right.
So I don't know. It just kind of gave me a perspective that I think a lot of people who grew up in Spokane, Washington, didn't have.
Right. That you had been a minority,
Yeah.
and then you would become the majority.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you came from like a military brat kind of family.
Yeah.
Do you have good experiences with your family? Do you have a good working relationship and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. My sisters are my best friends, and my parents are awesome as well. My mom's also one of my best friends.
And your parents are still together?
Yeah, they are.
That's
Yeah.
That's
They,
cool.
oh, this is a cool story relating us back to Las Vegas.
Hit us.
They got married in Las Vegas at Ye Kirk O' the Heather in downtown Las Vegas. So it's the Las Vegas marriage that worked out.
Well, there you go. I mean, you can't really argue
Yeah.
if it works out. And how long have they been together? Well, I mean, you're 24.
28, 9?
Are you the oldest?
No.
You're the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So my sister's 27.
For some reason, I thought you were the oldest.
No, I'm the middle child.
Okay. I'm the oldest,
Oh.
and it has its drawbacks. But what?
The babies are the worst.
Well, my brother is a spoiled brat. That's definitely true, and he got away with way more than ever I could ever dream of getting away with. But I want to know, what about being the middle child do you think influenced you?
I don't know, like if like during my childhood it really mattered. Me and my sisters are like 3 years apart, so we were pretty close in age. I think that sometimes it's reflected in my personality, just kind of like being like kind of a more calm person and less like confrontational or argumentative. I don't know.
That's really interesting. I think the middle children that I've met have always had to fight for attention, because you're competing against the oldest, who, I mean, is the most advanced in their life. They have, I mean, just numerically probably the most accomplishments.
Yeah.
And then you're competing against the baby, who is the youngest and
Adorable.
gets all the attention, and they're the cutest and all that stuff. Do you ever feel like there's a sense of competition between you and your siblings?
I don't. I mean, maybe it's because I don't know if it's like a gender thing, like because we're all girls.
That's definitely possible.
Maybe it's not. I don't know. I just we're so alike too. I think personality wise and what we're interested in is very similar. So I've never felt in competition with my sisters really at all, except for my little sister who I hated when I was younger. But she was the worst. Sorry, Rachel.
Well, I mean, you guys are close in age, but not too close.
Yeah.
And I think that's significant. So when your youngest sister was born, your oldest sister was already six,
yeah.
right? And so she understood what's happening. I don't have any of those memories because my brother and I are only 2 years apart.
Yeah.
And so I was still a toddler when he was born. So, and that's why I bring that up, is because I'm always I'm always concerned about these kinds of family dynamics and what effects they have on people, because I think everybody's different, obviously. And so that kind of competition, I think, is what drives a lot of graduate students. This is how I'm linking it all back. I'm trying to make a good point, because I think graduate students are almost always the best students in their undergraduate classes. I think that's why we go on to do more academic work. And there is a sense of competition that I feel against other people in my classes, whether this was at undergrad or here, is I feel like I have to compete for my place. We're competing for money. We're competing for jobs. We're competing for attention. We're competing for publications. And I was wondering if that had influenced you. Do you think there's anything like that?
Well, do you want to know why I went to graduate school?
Please.
Because I didn't know what else to do. It wasn't really like I want to prove something to somebody or to myself. It was more like, I don't want to work in retail anymore, and I know that I can do this, and I'm interested in it, so that's why I went. It wasn't, like, I guess, competition-based.
Well, your undergrad is in history.
Yeah, in anthropology.
Right. History and anthropology. And you don't really find a lot of professional bachelor-level historians or anthropologists.
Right, yeah.
Right? Like, we've chosen a field where you have to do graduate work in order to secure I hate to say this, but to secure a real job in our field, right? I went to undergrad kind of to become a lawyer, kind of to become a teacher. I had no idea what I was going to do, and I decided I didn't want to teach undergraduate, or I didn't want to teach high school students, so I would rather teach undergraduates, and that's why I went to grad school. So it's really interesting to hear your perspective to say, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Right. But for a lot of people, I think they don't know, so they keep going because having a master's in history is going to certainly open more doors than having a BA in history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how about, I'm still curious about your past because I think I've known you for like a year and a half, but we've never like sat down and had a one-to-one like this. So how about religion? Like, were you raised religious or not religious? Did you leave the faith? I'm curious about all these things.
Not raised religious in any way. Neither of my parents were religious. My mom's family is like Jewish, but my grandpa really never like went to synagogue, but they kind of had that like kind of Jewish cultural, I guess, part of the family. My dad's family, I don't even know if they went to church or anything, but yeah, never had religion.
And because that's really interesting, I think that's a growing phenomenon in our society is that less and less kids are raised with religion. And I think the United States, comparatively, especially to other Western democracies, is very religious.
Yeah.
How do you think that's affected you, if at all? Like interactions with your peers or interactions with other people in academia, something like that?
I remember like kind of an anecdote my mom has said before is that when we were living in Mississippi, people would always like one of the first questions like a new acquaintance would ask you was like, oh, what church do you go to? And it was just like a question that was always asked. Not that I remember, but moving, I guess, to Washington, Eastern Washington is pretty conservative and Christian.
Yes.
So going to school, I mean, it was kind of okay. There was always every once in a while it would happen where a friend would ask like, oh, what church do you go to? And I'd say no, and like no church.
Do you think that ever affected your friendships growing up?
Yeah, there were definitely people in high school that I went to high school with that did not like me because I wasn't Christian.
I had a similar experience, except I was openly hostile to them.
Oh.
So maybe it was my fault, but that's really interesting that you would say that. So you say it definitely affected your friendships. Now I'm asking because you said your sisters are your best friends.
Yeah.
Do you think that your experiences growing up, I mean, you moved a lot, so you never had any like super long-term friendships, right? Do you think that affected how you feel about your sisters?
I don't know. I mean, my best friend that I've known since I was like 11, so for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. Maybe with the sisters, they're just awesome. I don't know.
Well, and you naturally share a lot of things in common with them because
we had each other, and
they're
when
not
we were
religious
moving,
either. So it's not like they're saying, "What church do you go to?" And you say, "I don't go to church," and they're like, "Oh, fuck off," right?
Or they'll be like, "Why do you talk to your cat so much?" Because they do too.
I think that's something we also have in common. We are both cat people.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not religious. Your parents aren't really religious. What about in terms of politics? Like, where do you classify yourself in terms of American politics?
I don't really have like terribly strong defined politics. I don't think. I probably tend towards liberal, but I mean,
did you vote for Obama?
Yeah, I did. But
both times?
I was 18.
Well, I mean, I voted for Obama the first time. Did you vote for him both times?
I did, but it was more of a struggle to make that decision the second time, I think.
Yeah, see, I had the same thing. But I also voted in Idaho, where it doesn't matter. So, so you consider yourself like an American liberal, I mean, which is comparatively rather conservative in terms of the far more leftist politics that are in Europe.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself conforming to a lot of American liberal beliefs, or is that just an easy way to categorize yourself?
I think it's more of just an easy way to categorize myself. Politics, I'm just like not terribly interested in. Like, I know that sounds terrible, but it's just I don't know, it's not something that I go and read about.
No, it's a hallmark. It's a hallmark of our generation, I think, is that our generation does not care about politics because it has given nothing for us to be excited about. In 2008, Obama was exciting. He won the youth vote by an overwhelming margin and mobilized more young voters than the previous several elections.
Yeah.
And I think when you say you don't care about politics, I never blame millennials for that. We don't have a JFK to get behind.
Yeah.
We had Obama, and he's been a disappointment, and his approval among millennials has fallen. You know, we don't have a Martin Luther King to get behind. So when people blame millennials for not being politically engaged, it's like, give us politicians who will engage us.
Yeah.
Maybe we want something different. You have no idea. So that's my perspective, at least. Let's go back a little bit to your studies. Who do you consider to be your biggest influences?
Like historically?
Historians, philosophers, anybody.
Well, the reason why I really got into history in the first place, I guess in undergraduate, was I read The Organic Machine by Richard White. And it was kind of one of the first like academic books that made me really excited about learning, I guess.
And when did you read that in undergrad?
I was probably a junior or maybe a senior.
Were you taking like an environmental history class?
Yeah, so it was this cool kind of hybrid course that I took. It was my senior year, and it was like a year-long course. The first half we kind of read about environmental history in Washington, and then the second half was we did an exhibit in special collections. So it was kind of like it was a public history class, but way better done than the one I took maybe at UNLV.
Well, that's really interesting. So Richard White inspires you to continue learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he wrote this book, which is like pretty short, and it's really engaging, and I think it has a wide popular appeal, and it just kind of made me see how history can be like made attractive to regular people, I guess.
Well, that speaks, I think, directly to your kind of methodological predispositions. I don't even know. So, because you said you are interested in making history accessible to the general public, and that this book is something that inspired you to do that.
Yeah.
What are there any professors that you've had that have really made you want to go forward in this career path?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's actually two from Washington State University. Jesse Sponholz, who was like a Reformation historian, actually. I actually studied a lot of European history in undergraduate and not very much American history. So that's kind of been a struggle in my graduate career as I am majoring in American history. So he was just so amazing. He really loved teaching, and you could see it in his lectures and like his work with students. So he was really a huge kind of mentor, I guess. And
Sure.
then the other one was actually the professor who taught that year-long course in public history, Jeff Sanders, who is why I actually went to UNLV. I was applying to a bunch of graduate schools, and he was one of my letter writers, and he emailed me and said, hey, I just went to this conference, and I was talking to Andy Kirk at UNLV, and he was talking about how cool the public history program is. And I was like, well, I'm already applying to 6 schools. Why not just add a 7th? It's no big deal.
Right. And here you ended up.
Yeah, and here I ended up. So
And
thanks, Dr. Sanders.
Did you come to study with anyone specifically? Like, did you come here going, I want to take class with Dr. Kirk or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. I really did want to study with Dr. Kirk, and he was pretty much on sabbatical the whole first year of my studies, but it worked out fine.
Well, I mean, now we're in the environmental history colloquium.
I know, I'm so excited.
With Dr. Kirk. It works out. That's
He's
perfect.
awesome.
I moved to this question because I call it, what is your theory of history? Because I want to talk about theory and history. So I'm wondering, do you have a clear theoretical disposition about history?
That's I think the thing I've struggled with most in graduate school is kind of being introduced to this whole new way of thinking about the world and like human culture, and it's something that I've really struggled with, I guess, as a student. So it's really hard for me to say yes to that question.
What if I lead you this way? You worked with the Culinary Union.
Mm-hmm.
You worked on the Liberace exhibit, right?
Mm-mm.
No, you
I didn't.
Okay, but you're taking classes with the professor who'd run that.
Right.
And so I guess my question is, do you consider yourself to be a social historian or a cultural historian?
I think that I lean towards cultural. I think it has a lot to do with my undergraduate studies in anthropology. So yeah, cultural.
Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And in terms of criticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the other goal of the podcast, I guess. How do you feel about cultural criticism? Because I guess I'll just preface this question by saying that because we're historians, we
Mm-hmm.
call ourselves historians, and we're rather well educated, I would hope. I think it's important that we form these kinds of criticisms
Mm-hmm.
of whatever problems that we might see. And I want to ask you, how do you feel about cultural criticism in general? And then do you think it's important to you?
I guess, what exactly do you mean by culture?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking. I always see culture in terms of Marxism because I'm a Marxist historian.
Yeah.
And I think it's a product of the ideologies that have been produced by our economic system. So
Okay.
when I think about culture, I think about the way that people interpret the world, right? I think that's I've collapsed culture and ideology into the same kind of working term.
Okay.
And so when I ask this question, I'm meaning to ask things like, what do you think about criticizing other people's ideologies?
I don't know. I think I have a different definition of culture than you.
Good. Please expound.
Well, I guess it's anthropology influenced, weird, right?
Of course.
I kind of see it as anything that is like made by humans that are a part of a society. So it could be ideologies, it could be like material culture. I don't know if that. I think it might be just a kind of a more broader definition.
Oh,
than,
yeah,
than
I
yours.
think it is. Because I think we're pointing this blog towards journalism, towards movies and TV,
Yeah.
and to give our opinions. So I guess when I ask, like, why is criticism important to you? Like, when I approached you to do this blog, what made you agree to do it?
I just thought it sounded like a fun thing to do.
Well, I mean, this is what I do all the time. I'm just in my room typing away like, I hate America.
I think for me, I am such a like consumer of popular culture, and I kind of want to really think, not just be so much of a, what's the word for it? Like a, oh my gosh, like not like a conduit, but just like somebody that just takes it in. Is there a word for that?
Consumer? I don't know.
I'm like thinking of a
word.
specific term, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to just kind of be a person that just consumes it and doesn't think about it, because that's where I see myself falling into all the time, because I consume so many like TV shows and movies. And so I want to try to thinking about these things more and not
Absolutely.
just consuming them.
That's
why I want to do this.
That's a perfect answer,
This
I
project.
think, because I had this idea to do this blog/podcast because of the exact same thing, that I can't ever just sit on my couch and watch something.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about these broader implications, and maybe that's because studying history has broken me. I can no longer enjoy anything without going, oh my God, that is so misogynistic,
Yeah.
or oh my God, that is so racist, or the kinds of terminologies that people use on TV or in movies or whatever, and I'm thinking, oh man, the writers don't realize the implications of what they just wrote as what they call dialogue into the movies. You're just a broken brain. Just have to.
I don't know
take
if
it in.
I might be like a step behind you. I can definitely still watch things just for enjoyment, but maybe I don't necessarily want to be like that. I want to kind of explore the things that I enjoy more, and like why I enjoy them, why other people enjoy them, and maybe why we shouldn't enjoy them.
No, that's great. No, that's exactly. That's such an excellent answer. I remember after finals week a couple semesters ago, and I'm just burned out, and I sat down and I watched Pacific Rim. And I thought, this is the perfect movie to just shut down, not think about. I'm just going to watch robots punch aliens. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, it's
And-
amazing.
But the problem was I felt really guilty afterwards because I was like, there is so much here. Why do the aliens come out of Japanese waters? Nobody's ever asked that. Why do we? Never mind. But just the idea that I was sitting on my couch not thinking about something made me feel really guilty.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have to attack it somehow.
It's sad.
Think about
This is
the
what history does to us.
Well, I mean,
history.
think about
Graduate school.
the moral of Pacific Rim, for example, is that one large enemy unites humankind against it, right? What this big, happy, whitewashed history, we have monsters now and we have to fight them. What about everybody else?
Yeah.
Nobody ever considers, like, when you crush humanity into one ideology. I think it's organized by the United Nations in that movie.
I don't remember.
What a preposterous leap that the audience has to make in order for that movie to make sense, right? These are thoughts I had in the shower like the day afterwards. I was like, oh my God, Pacific Rim, not as good as I hoped it would be. And they're making a sequel, and I'm very excited because
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro is the bomb, but you still have to attack these kinds of outstandingly preposterous issues, I guess.
But then I also think of, like, that makes me think of why can't a movie just be preposterous? Like, I don't know. Like, can it just be like that?
Well, there's pieces of art which I believe are overtly subversive, right? They're going against the grain in some kind of ways to be weird. And I think the way, see, and I'm not an aesthetician, right? I haven't read enough philosophy for me to have a really informed opinion on this, but I think that when art violates our preconceived categorization of something, that's the statement that I think the artist is trying to get across. And so bringing it back, I guess, to something like Pacific Rim, is that the message they're trying to make? Are they trying to break categories? Are they trying to be subversive? I don't think so.
No.
I think they were just trying to make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Lindsay here at Intermission. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at ScreaminVegan. Follow Hannah on Instagram and Twitter at hands_labyrinth. Don't forget to like the Handsy Comprehensive Exam Facebook page at facebook.com/Handsy Comprehensive Exam. Email the show, handsycompexam@gmail.com. Be on the lookout for new music tracks from my music project, Disciplinary Boundaries. Visit soundcloud.com/disciplinary-boundaries. And of course, follow the Handsy Comprehensive Exam blog at handsykomprehensiveexam.com. Let's get back to the show. Okay, that's excellent. Let's move on to the lightning round.
Lightning round.
I'm ready.
Because this is a get to know you episode, and because you probably won't ever answer lightning round questions again, instead of doing 5, which we will do for our other guests, we're going to do
all of them.
No, we're going to do 10 because I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to drive our episode audience off after one episode.
From me and you, it's just going to be
Yeah.
you listening to it.
The only people who listen to this podcast are me as I sit alone in my bedroom editing it. Okay, so what I will ask you to do is to please give me 10 numbers between 1 and 30.
3, 7, 12, 13, 20, 23, 24, 29, and 30. 10?
10. All right, lightning round.
Okay.
Number 3. Your plane crashes and you get stranded on a deserted island with only one movie on your iPad. What movie did you just download?
Well, what movie have I watched the most in my life? Probably Harry Potter and The Half-Blood Prince.
Okay.
Because I love it.
Well, I mean, you don't have to justify
I'm alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lightning round.
Number 7. Who is your favorite character from the Tolkien universe?
Okay. Here's the thing. I've only read The Hobbit and I've watched the movies, so I don't feel like a true Tolkien fan.
You don't have to feel like a Tolkien fan. In fact, I think The Hobbit introduces more characters and like more of the mythology than the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I think I liked Legolas a lot because he's cute.
Hey, we'll take it. Legolas it is.
Super good answer so far.
Very critical, actually.
Lightning round.
Let's go to number 12. Skyrim or Borderlands?
Mario Kart.
I mean, that's a decent answer if you don't play big RPGs like nerds like me.
I'm so lame.
Lightning round.
Number 13. This is my favorite.
Okay.
It's the trolley problem. Have you heard of that? It's a thought experiment in philosophy.
Okay.
There is a runaway trolley flying down some railroad tracks toward 5 people tied to the tracks. You have the opportunity to pull a lever and reroute the trolley, but it will kill one person tied to the other set of tracks. What do you do?
Pull the lever?
So you're going to kill that one person to save 5.
Yeah.
Okay, that's clearly a utilitarian point of view. But I'm very disappointed you didn't criticize the premise of the question.
Well, I thought about asking if they were all tied to the track just to see if maybe someone wanted to be killed. Like they were just laying there.
Exactly. There's other versions of this story where it's like, do you push a fat guy in front of the trolley to derail it? And what
Is that how trolleys work?
Yeah, what is the probability that it will actually work and all these things? So there's other ways that people have approached the problem, which I think is very funny.
Lightning round.
Number 20. Which is a scarier post-apocalyptic scenario? AMC's The Walking Dead or Cormac McCarthy's The Road?
Ooh, that's a good one. Oh gosh. I think if I was living in the world where The Road happened, I would know why the world was the way it was, but not knowing why the world was like over is really disturbing. So I think if you just went into the road like as where the story is and you were never able to figure out why the world has ended, then yes, that would be scarier.
Yeah, which is what the reader does when they read the book, is that
Yeah.
they never are told why the world has come to its end.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Lightning round.
Number 23. If you could fight any person from history, who would you fight?
Like a fist fight?
Yeah, like a fist fight, like Fight Club.
I don't know if I'd be very good at that. I'd have to train first.
You have 30 days of preparation.
Okay.
And you can fight any person from history. Who do you fight?
Gandhi. No.
He's wiry and dangerous. You
Yeah,
never know
I
with that guy.
It'd be a fun match, I think.
All right.
Lightning round.
Number 24. Are we in the Matrix?
Oh my gosh. Sometimes I think that yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's fair.
Lightning round.
Number 29. If you could go back in time, what would you fix?
But what about the butterfly effect? I don't know if I would fix. I don't know. I don't really can't think of anything funny to say.
You don't have to think of anything funny. As a historian, I think it's shows a measure of respect that you say nothing. I wouldn't
Yeah.
change anything. Like, we are agents of history, and this
Yeah.
is what we are. That's fair.
Lightning round.
Number 30. What is your favorite history book? Is it Organic Machine, or is it something else now?
I do love that book. I think my second favorite is Mad Blood Stirring, who I can't even remember who the author is anymore. But that was another book I read in undergraduate that really kind of made me like history. I think it's cool.
Well, there you go.
Lightning round.
And finally, number 10. If you could go to a show with any 4 bands playing, who would they be, and in what order would they perform?
Lately, all I've been listening to is classic rock, so that might kind of like
A
sway my answer.
reunion tour.
Let's see, what would be a really fun live show?
This is one of those fantasy scenarios where any band who would usually headline a show suddenly opens the show. The Rolling Stones opening for Pink Floyd.
Well, I was gonna say Led Zeppelin, maybe that. I don't know if that's number 1, but they're definitely in the mix. And Art Brut's one of my favorite British kind of punk bands, so I definitely want to see them. And I think I'd want to see Modest Mouse again, because
Okay.
they're awesome.
Fair.
And who would be number 4? I'm trying to think of a fun band.
You can say Britney Spears. It's okay.
Oh my god. That just reminded me. Do you know the singer Hoku from the 90s?
I do not.
Oh
I'm
my god,
sorry.
like a Disney singer. She was Hawaiian, and I can't even remember what her popular song was, but now I want to go listen to her. Maybe I'll just say her for my 4th person.
There you go. I mean,
Hoku.
if you want to see her, let her open the show,
Yeah.
right? And then what?
Then move into Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And Art Brut, which would just be like so much fun, I think, their shows. And then Modest Mouse, just to like round it out. Because I already know what to expect. I've been to a show of theirs before.
That's great. That's fine. All right. That's the end of the lightning round.
Lightning round.
We will now move on to recommendations. Is there a new album, show on TV, movie, article, something that has caught your interest that you think our audience should be aware of?
I'm not allowed to say Black Mirror.
You are not allowed to say Black Mirror, because I told you I was going to say Black Mirror.
I'll say The Fall, which is a Netflix original. They kind of address why people like watching police procedurals so much and maybe what's wrong with that. So I really was happy with how that second season ended, that whole arc of the story.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's got one of my favorite people, Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And I love the X-Files. I'm a big X-Files fan. And The Fall is definitely on my list.
Have you watched any of it?
No, I haven't. I've seen it keeps popping up because I think
Yeah.
Netflix is pushing it pretty hard right now. Every time I see it, I go, oh, I should really watch that.
Well, I love detective procedural shows, and this one is just like really well done, and Gillian Anderson is just like at the top of her game, as she always is.
And
an
she's
amazing human.
she's also great on Hannibal.
Oh my god, that show is amazing.
Yes, exactly. My recommendation for this week is a show from the UK. It's currently on Netflix. It's Black Mirror, and the first 2 seasons are on, and it's this dark sci-fi kind of satire about human nature and technology. And it's up on Netflix, and it's a lot like The Twilight Zone. It's an anthology like that. So there's no arc from episode to episode, but each one is like a self-contained short movie, pretty much. And I think it's really dark, and I've really enjoyed watching it.
Very disturbing.
Yeah, I watched the first season and the last episode. You have to get through the first episode.
Yeah.
Which is about the prime minister and you'll see why
sexual act.
Yeah, you'll see why it's really weird if you watch the first episode. And if the first episode turns you off, keep going.
Yeah.
Because it only gets better. But if you love the first episode, which is also possible, then you're going to love the rest of them too.
Did you like the third one the best?
I probably liked the third one the best because as you get to it, it's about these people who have these little microchips implanted in them that allows them to replay their memories as like videos. Mm-hmm. And I liked it because of the question it raised about narrativity and how people choose to remember what is going on. Because in this scenario, the way that people remember things is completely revolutionized. They have all the evidence of their past indiscretions just stored in their minds, and they can never get away from them. And the main character of the episode becomes obsessed with that. And I think it's fascinating, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think I liked the second episode the best.
Where they are...
Well, it's in the future, and
Right.
for some reason, people have to power England by like riding bikes every day.
Right.
And it's just kind of an interesting look at choosing like a life of leisure over your beliefs, and it really like grapples with that.
Well, and they incentivize the people who are riding these stationary bikes by promising they'll have a shot at like an American Idol type competition.
Yeah.
And so that's the incentive that they are given to keep manufacturing electricity or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. I do want to live in one of those little pods though with like the light up walls. That was awesome.
And the advertisements going all the
Oh
time?
my gosh,
I think
yeah.
not.
No, but just like the video walls.
Right,
That'd
right.
be cool.
Okay, if you're happy with that, we can call that for episode 1, and we
Yeah.
can take a break and go do
Pet cats.
pet cats and come back and do the next episode.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of our introductory podcast. Part 2 will be out later this week, and Hannah will interview me about why I'm studying history, what excites me, and what I'm trying to do with my life. Thanks again for listening. I'm very excited about this new project that Hannah and I are starting, and I also appreciate your attention. On that note, have an excellent day, and we'll talk again soon.
I'm only getting started.